Hi. Okay, I have one correction from my last episode. I said Old Yeller, that old movie. I said it was a golden retriever, but I'm pretty sure it was a yellow lab. Sorry about that. So that reminds me to go back to some more movies and stuff like that, memories. I'm still at age 10 because age 10 was like a monumental year. You know, every 10 years, um, is a monumental year. It's the big birthday party and all that stuff. But think about it. Age 10, that's when puberty is starting for most kids, right around that age, right? That's a big deal, of course. Age 20, you're like, you think you're an adult, but you're not really, you know? And then age 30 is for women, it's really the best childbearing time. And I think, in my opinion, and a lot of doctors would agree with that. Um, so at age 30, you feel pretty much accomplished and ready to settle down and have your family and stuff like that. And then age 40 for men is the midlife crisis. And as far as careers go, you're probably at the peak at age 40, or close to it. And age 50, also, you should be accomplished in your career, hopefully, or maybe you're changing careers, right? And age 60, it starts to get scary. That's when you really start thinking about getting old. Age 50, you start thinking about it. Age 60, it's happening and you start to feel it. And I'm almost 70, so that's a scary thing. Anyway, my hairdo, I must mention, is this is like the way we wore it when I was 10. You know, the women, the girls with straight hair wore it like this. The teenagers and young ladies in their 20s and 30s, 40s, whatever, they wore they teased up their hair and made these big beehives on top. And the ones that had the curly hair were mostly wearing it were wearing it short, really short. And they had little spit curls right here. They called them spit curls, and they would curl up right here, kind of like sideburns, you know. And in the 50s, well, they used to do bobby pin curls in the 50s, and in the early 60s, we're in the early 60s now, they had sponge rollers and different kinds of curlers. They used to wear their hair in flips. I used to do that, a flip like this, but I didn't feel like going to that trouble tonight to do that for you. Sorry. Um, in the 50s, the girls wore the um, banana curls or whatever you call them, those sausage curls like this. But then in the 60s, they kind of went away. So those are those styles. And as far as the TV and stuff like that goes, I was thinking of a few more things for the 60s, early 60s. I'm sorry, I made notes trying to be more organized, but I can't see without my glasses. And I know there's a glare for my glasses, and I apologize for that, but um, this will go better if I look at my notes a little bit. So I grew up in the New York metropolitan area, New Jersey, and who remembers Tommy Seven? He was a TV clown. Um, East side, west side, all around the town. The kids watch Tommy Seven. He's a favorite TV clown. And Officer Joe Bolton, he was the host for Popeye. And Sing Along with Mitch. Do you remember that at nighttime with the bouncing ball? That was fun. And the shows that I remembered liking a lot was the Beverly Hillbillies around that time, My Three Sons. Chip was like exactly my age, the youngest, and then there was Robbie, and I don't know, the oldest, I think his name was Mike, maybe. Um, and movies around that time now, Godzilla and The Blob. I remember going to movies to see those. They were very popular. Shirley Temple had a storybook, like on, I think it was on Sunday night, and she would it was in color, I think. She would do the stories, uh, the fairy tales, and that was good. I enjoyed that. And then my favorite cartoon became Rocky and Bullwinkle. And Bugs Bunny was definitely around about that. I like that also. But Rocky and Bullwinkle also, I loved their fractured fairy tales. They were really cool. And what else? Walt Disney World was on Sunday nights, and they were like the first show to be in color. It was Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color, and the only channel that had color was NBC, and we didn't have a color TV in the right. We were not one of the first to get it, but my next door neighbor had one, and she used to let us. She used to invite me over on Sunday nights to watch Walt Disney, and talking about fifth grade still, talking about styles. Um, the hair, the headbands were big. And we always wore knee socks to match your clothes. And penny loafers were big, and we even put the little penny in there. And my parents had my dad wasn't there at that time, but my mom drove a 57 Plymouth around that time. It was really cool with the great big fins, and it was white with a red stripe on it, and it had push button transmission. And my dad, when he was on his vacation, picked up a dog at the animal shelter, and it was a beagle named Zippy. That was my first dog. And back then, dogs ran free. Dogs ran all over the neighborhood. And Zippy, later on, she got knocked up by the dog across the street and had some little puppies, and then we got her fixed. But that's something that has changed immensely, the way dogs, pets are treated, because I don't think we treated our dog bad. I mean, she was just in and out, running free. She ate fine. I remember she had a lot of fleas. Then the flea collars came out. I think that was when they first came out, and we got her a flea collar, and that helped. I used to pick the fleas off of her and throw them in a bowl of water um, before we got the flea collars. So I'm just trying to, reminisce for everybody, and for those that were not born yet, you see what it was like. Make Room for Daddy was one of my favorite shows back then. It was Danny Thomas, and um, Marlo Thomas was his daughter in real life. But on the show, Angela Cartwright was a little girl, and she also was right about the same age as me. So I really liked her. I thought she was cool. And later on, she became one of the stars in Lost in Space a few years later. Um, okay, so I wanted to go back to one thing, spin the bottle. I mentioned playing spin the bottle at birthday parties in the last video, and I didn't mention the really big deal that happened from the birthday parties. That's what spawned it, but we started playing spin the bottle in my garage after school, like every day. Half the class, everybody who could, everybody who didn't have to run straight home after school, they were at my house after school in the garage playing spin the bottle. We had a blast. Everybody loved it. I became very popular. And after that, all of the kids started hanging out at my house after school, even after spin the bottle got old after a while. Everybody was hanging every day after school. The whole gang came to my house because there was no supervision. It was perfect place. It was only one block from the school, you know, big house, big yard. It was a perfect hangout. And one thing in the fifth grade that I was very proud of was I was the bell ringer. They chose me. Anyway, one person in the fifth grade every year was chosen to be the school bell ringer. And they picked me, they said, because I was so dependable. I had to be there 5 minutes early to ring the bell. The bell was a button on the wall, and I had to hold it. I had to watch the clock, And at the exact time, I had to hold it for exactly 7 seconds. And then 5 minutes late, that was the warning bell. And 5 minutes later, I did the same thing for the real bell before school, lunchtime, and after school. And so that was my big responsibility I was proud of. And talking about food, I touched on this for a second, but I talked about the first time I ate pizza last time. I never had that at home. Somebody in my house didn't like tomatoes. I think it was my dad or my grandfather or somebody didn't like tomatoes, so we never had anything with tomatoes. So I never had spaghetti sauce with red sauce. I mean, I never had spaghetti with red sauce. Never ate a tomato until I was at Girl Scout camp. And I remember somebody brought a big tomato from their garden. New Jersey has the best tomatoes in the world. Maybe Italy, I don't know, but New Jersey has best tomatoes in this country. I'm sure of that. No doubt. They had some really good corn too. The Garden State. So going back to TV for a second, and remember my grandma? Well, my grandpa died when I was 10 also. He was not doing well for a couple of years. He had a couple heart attacks and strokes. Actually, 7 heart attacks and 4 strokes, finally died. And I remember I was very sad. It was the first funeral I went to, and I cried a lot when he first died. Not at the funeral, but I was sad. He had stopped, the molestation had stopped for a couple years, and he was just old. And um, anyway, then my grandma, I'm sure, was very sad after that, and I had to try to keep her. I mean, I became closer to her. I could feel her sadness, and I became much closer to her after that. But I wanted to say, my grandma, she loved Muhammad Ali, and I watched all the fights with her, and she would just get such a kick out of him, and how he would do those cute little poems and talk about his pretty face and all this stuff, and she just loved him. She got such a kick out of him, just laughed all the time, and he was pretty cool and got me interested in wrestling, um, boxing. I'm sorry, boxing. Um, I anyway, so I wanted to talk a little bit more about my mom and my family, talking about meals and food. Okay, my grandmother, I had mentioned before, would make my lunch always, and she always cooked, and always we used to, when I was younger, we had a nice Sunday dinner that she would make, very traditional American food. um, my mom would make dinner, and in the kitchen. My grandmother ate in the dining room, my mother ate in the kitchen, and she would make dinner for me. And then by then, my brother was like 2 years old, and she would. I didn't like her Japanese food. I was fine with rice, eating plain white rice with soy sauce. She made a pot of rice every other day, had leftovers every other day with the rice, and I was fine with that. I did not like the Japanese food because I didn't like things mixed together. I like to have everything to be plain and separate. I did grow to like it much later in my adult life. Um, but we didn't eat together as a family with my grandmother, with my grandparents, and my dad. You know, the only time we ever ate together was at Christmas and Easter, Thanksgiving. Those are the only times we would eat in the dining room, and it would usually end up with my mom and my grandma fighting. My grandmother would just, either my mom or my grandmother would say something that would upset the other one, and they would have some more words, angry words, and then one or the other or both of them would start crying and leave the table. It happened every time. So, those are my food memories. For then. I'm trying to stick to the age 10. I mentioned about dancing a bit. Oh, I mentioned about the dancing at the at school at lunchtime, and I had ballroom dance lessons. Well, three of us were chosen, three girls and three boys from the whole city, because this dance instructor went around to all the schools in the city. So he chose three girls and three boys, and three girls were actually me and my two girlfriends, Joni and Patty. And one of the boys was from Guy, I will say his name. He was from our school also, and then two other boys from a different school. And the three couples were selected to do this big dance exposition, and we would the dance instructor would come and pick us up to go to the studio in West End and practice. And then the exhibition was at the Harbor Island Spa, which was the big ritzy hotel where the rich people went. I remember a great big crystal chandelier. But the girls, we were 10 years old when we did this. I remember getting a new dress, a store-bought dress, which was very special because usually my mom made mostly all my clothes. So the teacher, Mr. Musto, he told us girls that we needed to wear lipstick. So that was the first time for us wearing lipstick, 10 years old. And we needed to wear stockings. And that was the first time for that. This was before pantyhose. We wore garter belts. And I remember my friend Patty, we were all small, even, on the small side for our age 10. And Patty's mom couldn't find the garter belt to fit her. So I remember my mom sewing one for her. And anyway, we and the boys, of course, had nice little suits on. And we came out, each couple danced out with the spotlight on us, and all these rich people with their mink stoles and big earrings and stuff in the audience. Weirdest thing that I do not understand at all is that none of our parents were there. I don't know if they were invited, they couldn't afford it, or what, but none of our parents were there. None of our parents ever even came to the practices, and none of us had pictures. How strange is that? I mean, I did get a trophy for it. My brother broke it a couple, maybe a year or two later, but I mean, it was such a good memory and such an important event in my life. Yet, as years went by, I mean, decades went by, because I didn't even have a picture of it, I almost thought, did that really happen? It was so cool when all of us started to get on Facebook about 10 years ago, and Guy got on the Facebook with me, and he said, "Susie, do you remember when we did that dance exhibition at the Harbor Island Spa?" I said, "Thank you so much." I was so happy to hear that it wasn't like a crazy dream I had. It was real. We really did that. And I said to him, "Were your parents there?" He said, "Nope." I said, "Did you have any pictures of it?" He said, "Nope." I said, "Isn't that strange?" He said he thought the same thing. So I don't know. That was really one of those weird things that wouldn't happen today, I'm sure. Okay, time check. Don't want to take too long. Oh, time's up. Catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Like me.